Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here in all the ways that we are able to be here. I'm Annie Moyer. This is Sun and Moon Yoga Studio, and we're going to do a little bit of meditating, a little bit of contemplating this evening, or whenever you're watching. So we'll start with about 10 minutes of just simple, quiet seat and sitting and breath and breathing. So find some decided contact with the ground, however you feel that your physical form is relating to the form that is underneath you, supporting you. Make that contact intentional and clear and deliberate. So step one is to get comfortable. Step two is to find your breath. So as you bring awareness to the inner realm of you, you may notice the next inhale arriving and arising in your body. Welcome that. Stay with it for as long as you can. And then if you stay with it long enough, you'll find the next exhale, the corresponding breath, to release and to make way for the next breath in. And as you notice inevitable distractions arising, make a note, recognize them for what they are, just a natural part of being in this world. And then allow the next breath to be present in your awareness and in your physical experience. And the closer and closer we get to having our awareness of each moment match our physical experience of it, then the closer and closer we get to a sort of mindfulness that gives us the freedom to be. And that freedom to be means the freedom to be without the sort of suffering or lack of clarity or knocking of worry in the back of the head. The freedom to just be is to recognize that in this moment alone, everything's okay. Even if there's evidence surrounding us to the contrary. And that's not hard to find. But in this moment, right now, from this breath to the next one, is a space of freedom, can be a space of ease, even in the midst of profound suffering and concern. And perhaps you can feel the sensations inside that rise up to meet the mind, that feel and sense the welcoming presence of your thoughts. Like a child being soothed inside. And we are at once the soothers and the child being soothed. We can do this for ourselves. Just a few more breaths here, reveling in the inner quiet, in the relative sensations of soothed presence. And then just give yourself some gentle movement, a little bit of waking up to your immediate surroundings. I'd like to talk about attention this evening. the idea of how we pay attention to life, to ourselves, to each other, to our own thoughts and experiences. So there's lots of different forms of attention. There's attention for entertainment or diversion. Scrolling through our social media feeds is a form of paying attention. There is something that is catching our mind and we're engaging with it in some way consciously. Binging on Netflix. There's some really good programming out there. There's no reason not to enjoy it, right? So these things, entertainments and diversions, they have their value when we engage with them wisely and in moderation. And as we know too well, they have their detriment when we do them mindlessly instead of as a escape for the more pressing things, or as a way of zoning out or checking out from an emotional reality that we don't want to deal with, or interpersonal relationship that we're not facing that needs our attention. Another form of attention is the attention that we give to scrutinize things. And typically it's ourselves that we're scrutinizing in seriously critical ways, standing in front of the mirror for the daily invoice of imperfection. A wrinkle there, a roll of fat here, a wish for something to be other than it is in our bodies. And that sort of critical scrutiny that's not constructive can be, in fact, destructive when we allow a patterning to get dug in, and then it drives our behavior and it drives our emotional reality. There is the sort of attention that leads to more of an obsession, where we replay regrettable moments in our minds over and over and feed that endless thirst of shame and embarrassment or guilt or regret. That sort of attention is not helpful in terms of seeking freedom and clarity and ease in our consciousness and presence. So the quality of attention is the thing to pay attention to. The quality of attention that we bring is where the keys to freedom lie, I believe. I think that there is an inverse proportion between the duration or the tractability of a situation and the amount of time and attention that we pay to it. The things that we pay a lot of attention to and spend a lot of mind resource on are usually the things that are not going to last, like a wrinkle there or a roll of fat here. That roll of fat is going to go somewhere else, or it'll get bigger, or it'll get smaller, or who knows what will happen. But we fixate on the things that we know are going to go away. Our physical forms themselves are the clearest example because our bodies are changing every single day. I consider this to be great news. We are getting older every single day, and that comes with a boatload of change. So why are we spending so much time and mental resource on the thing that we're looking at today? Because it won't probably be here tomorrow or next year. That latching on to the things that are inevitably going to change or pass, like the trivial ephemera of life, is taking away from the time and resource that we could be paying attention to the longer lasting qualities of being human, the capacity for love and patience and compassion, the capacity for wisdom and the depth of that wisdom, and how it can feed and enhance and undergird our ultimate freedom of heart and mind. So it's this sort of mindful, wise attention that then allows us to penetrate the moment and see how an imbalanced ego might be coloring it. Is this all about me? Probably not. Or how fear is latching on to the moment. And then we can say, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I don't have so much to be afraid of. Or how our lack of faith is dismissing these fleeting moments. And so we can bring the eternal and the ephemeral more into balance when we're choosing wisely how to focus our attention. It's fascinating how we get trapped in this ego cycle of paying attention to the things that are about us and worrying about the way other people will see us, when the very real truth of it is that nobody is thinking about us as much as we are thinking about us. They're doing the same thing in their own minds. And so we can really and truly, genuinely let that go. If there are people who spend a lot of time obsessing about, am I wearing the right thing to this event? And then ask them the next day what everybody else was wearing, and they can't answer it, unless somebody has reported from the red carpet. And that's a whole nother realm. But day to day, people aren't paying as much attention to us in those small ways as we think they are. And so we can let those things go. And the idea of this lack of faith in each moment, that we could pool our mental resources and pay the sort of quality attention to the things that are eternal, the sense of true unbounded spirit and freedom of heart. That's the sort of faith that then brings into better equilibrium the passing moments, which have their true value, and the eternal sense of divine and benevolent presence that we all have. So I'll invite you to do a little contemplative exercise now in our next session of sitting. And that involves watching the thoughts arise and then noting them. And you can use your own words to note them. An example would be passing, those things that are fleeting and unimportant. Something comes up, note it. That's passing. And then perhaps when we note enough of the passing, trivial, attentive thoughts, then when an eternal one arises, like, yes, ease, freedom, grace, compassion, then we can note that too, eternal. So those are my words, my suggestion. Feel free to replace them with your own. I advise against choosing a word that has a lot of negative connotations. Like, we don't want to say that thought is, we don't want to name that as like bull crap. I cleaned that up for the broadcast. Or others as, yeah, I don't know. But you get the idea. So let's see how that goes. Find a comfortable way of being in your body. And then start to notice the thoughts And see if you can classify them, name them, recognize and note. Passing or eternal. And notice the quality of attention that begins to rise up when you note the eternal thoughts. It's possible that with the passing thoughts, there may be some inner contraction. There may be some smallness to your experience inside. Maybe. There may be some tax on an inner energetic quality. Possibly with the eternal thoughts, there might be some refresh or rejuvenated experience, an expansion in the quality of your presence. Maybe. And then if you forget the purpose of the exercise or the details of it, just come back. Recognize that. Begin again. Take the next thought. Note its quality. Perhaps the thoughts that feel eternal, supportive, freedom-giving, feel really sustaining in the body. Perhaps you feel like it's part of the support that's holding you here, something you could really lean into or surrender down toward. Maybe. Is it harder to hold yourself up during the passing thoughts, the nagging ones? Is it more strenuous to be in this body when the mind is arguing? Take a few more breaths. Maybe note a few more notes. Maybe invite one more eternal sort of thought in and revel in its presence. And bring your awareness back to your immediate surroundings and invite your body into a little bit more wakeful state. It's also worth considering the quality of attention that we receive. And just noticing that as a guide for then how to give back in terms of relating with others. Does it feel sometimes like the attention that we're receiving from somebody is attention that's only serving their own ego? Are they seeking something from us to validate their experience or worth? And that feels contracting. It doesn't feel genuine. There's attention that people can receive that feels controlling or oppressive or deliberately harmful. That's worth understanding that that's not the kind of attention that is qualitatively useful and healthy in that relationship. And so that's an opportunity to change the way we allow that in to our lives. And then is there attention that we receive that's fear-based on the part of the other person, a product of our own manipulative attentions, perhaps? And that's also not sustaining. It doesn't feel good for either. Because if you're the party who is doing the manipulating in order to receive the tension, it's never going to be enough. So if we can sort of acknowledge the reality of those dynamics and see them playing out with other people, then we might acknowledge our own culpability at times in doing that sort of behavior. And it doesn't have to be anything big or violent or insidious. We do this all the time. We go into a conversation wanting something out of that person rather than truly a freely given gift of our own presence. One of my teachers defined love as attention undivided. The truly pouring your energetic presence into the energetic presence of another and allowing that space to be fully blossomed in the moment. That feels like love. That feels like worth pursuing. That feels sustaining and eternal. Let's just take a few more minutes sitting with the truth of ourselves in relationship with others and tune into our own capacity to give undivided attention in the form of love. And yes, this can include romantic love, and yes, this can include love of family and friends, but it can also include simply love of other humans, a sort of a philanthropic presence of our whole hearts. Once again, notice the quality of sensation inside when we allow the more sustaining nature of attention to come to the forefront. And does that feel like loving presence? Does that feel like a quality of attention that we could give out to others without regard to what we get in return? A Beatles song is coming to mind, a lyric. The love we take is equal to the love we make. I think this is how attention works. I think the poetry of Mary Oliver is one of the greatest gifts of someone who really knew how to pay attention in the world. This is the summer day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Much gratitude for this time together and for your attention. Thank you.